I'm excited to introduce our partner, Abby, who you heard earlier. She's going to present our latest LDV Capital Insights report. Content and the Metaverse are powered by visual tech. Abby, take it away.
All right, thanks so much, Evan. And thank all of you for joining us today. We're very excited to be here and be talking about our Insights report from 2021. This is the 5th year, as Evan mentioned, of our Insights report. First, we dove into the number of cameras in the world by 2025, found 45 billion cameras. Then we did healthcare, logistics and manufacturing. Last year, we looked at food and agriculture. And this year, we took a peek at content, the future of content creation and the metaverse. After this event, it is the official launch of the report as well. And so Kat is going to be sending you all a copy of the report directly to your inbox. So for this Insights report, as the experts in visual tech, the only VC fund out there that invests specifically in visual technologies, we wanted to understand a little bit more about the intersection between content creation, the creator economy, and visual technologies. And so we spent the past 5 months really doing a big deep dive. We looked at over 500 different sources. We talked to 40 experts, and we came up with all of the findings that we're going to talk to you about today. And where we kind of started with all of this, right, is that the creator economy is not new. The creative economy has existed for generations, right? It's primarily been dealing with physical goods like pottery or jewelry, paintings, then books, photos, videos, etc. But over the past 2 decades, it's become digital. And this digitization has led to massive shifts in content creation. The internet, it wasn't always considered to be real life, but now we live as much online as we do in person. And this is only going to continue post-pandemic. We work, we date, we laugh with our grandparents, we play games, we attend cooking classes, concerts, church services, and dinner parties. We participate in politics. We appear at court, we go to school, we shop, we visit the doctors, and we do it all via computer screens. So now we find ourselves in the midst of a total evolution, right? Digital is another dimension of our human existence. As we embrace our digital lives, it's only natural that we choose to represent ourselves and express ourselves in new ways online. We want to digitally express our thoughts, our tastes, our styles, our talents, overall our creativity. And so in order to showcase our personality and our uniqueness online in the same ways that we do in person, we're participating more than ever before, and we're generating content. The vast majority of that content is visual. Anything that we view is a visual content, whether that is text, photos, GIFs, videos, stories, movies, online shopping, live streaming, gaming. This is all visual content. And visual content, if we continue along the same rate, there's going to be 100 times more of it by 2027 online. And in order to be created, it requires visual technologies. And so for the scope of our research over the summer, we wanted to look at the creation process, how content was made, and some of the tools behind production and automation of that content, and also onto monetization. You're going to hear about some of our finds in terms of monetization later from Azim. And so right now, I'm going to talk to you predominantly about the tools for content creation, automation that leverage visual technologies, computer vision and machine learning over the next 5 years. Visual technology, by our definition, is any technology that captures, analyzes, filters, displays, or distributes visual data. It typically leverages computer vision, machine learning, or artificial intelligence. Currently, it takes time and often years of prior training in order to produce a single piece of high quality and contextually relevant visual content. It's also required deep technical expertise in order to produce that content, especially at the speed and the quantities that are required to succeed today. Automation tools are going to be critical to enabling creators to focus on the content. A variety of visual technologies are really the backbone of the tools that are being built to automate the technical parts of creation. They'll take the technical out of creation, and it's going to enable creators to focus on the creative. Could you imagine if you had to write a line of code every single time you wanted to send a tweet out into the world? What this is going to enable is an individual will be able to compete with full production studios in terms of the quality and the quantity of the content that they can produce. One of the major tools that we really started our research on was looking at synthetic media, right? A lot of the content that we view today is already computer generated, whether that's CGI graphics, special effects, VFX, or altered by software like Photoshop. Whether that's the Army of the Dead that we watch on Game of Thrones, or maybe a resized image of Kim Kardashian, the content that we see everywhere has been digitally designed and altered by human artists. Now, computers and AI can generate images and videos of people, things, and places that never actually existed. By 2027, synthetic media is going to become ubiquitous. We're going to view more photorealistic synthetic images and videos than ones that document a real person or place. Some experts even project that synthetic content will be nearly 95% of the content that we view on a daily basis. It's going to be faster, cheaper, and more inclusive to synthesize objects and people than to hire models, find locations, and do a full photo or video shoot. Synthetic media itself, it uses GANs, right? So generative algorithms. There's been major strides in generative adversarial networks, aka GANs, over the past few years. And now they're enabling the automation of creation of content across all different media types. GANs are able to write text, make photos, create game scenarios, and so much more using simple prompts from humans, like write me 100 words about a penguin on top of a volcano. Or in this case, I could draw some scribbles on NVIDIA's GAN and will automatically turn it into a realistic looking photo. You can try this all out for yourselves online. GANs essentially are the next Photoshop, and tools that leverage GANs are going to inspire creators in the ideation phase. It'll expand their thinking and make the process faster. And you'll learn more about that later today from Peter Wielander of OpenAI. GANs are also able to enable creators to go beyond their physical ability to produce a photo or a video. Already today, gaming, marketing, and advertising are experimenting with the commercial use of GANs. In terms of live streaming, right? Like we've all heard a lot about live streaming recently because it's one of the fastest growing segments in online video. Live streaming is defined as video that's recorded and broadcast in real time over the internet. Over 60% of individuals aged 18 to 34 watch live streaming content daily. It's one of the most popular forms of online content today. There's a variety of high growth categories. We already know that gaming and esports is the top one today, but shopping, cooking, and concerts and events are really up and coming. You'll hear some more about live shopping later today as well. The most successful streamers in all of these categories are spending somewhere between 50 to 60 hours a week live streaming, and they're spending many more hours on production itself. Visual tech tools are going to enable them to spend less time doing this and to have better produced content, whether that's automated overlays, sentiment analysis, pose estimation, or photogrammetry. These visual tech tools are offering tremendous opportunity, and they're going to ultimately aid live streaming automation. Video content is on track to constitute 82% of internet traffic by 2023, with the video streaming market expected to hit $150 billion by 2026. If you look at 2020 alone, 72% of people across the globe uploaded a video to the internet. You can raise your hands if you're one of them. But professional video production is still a really long and arduous process, right? Generally, to write, direct, shoot, and deliver a video with actors, it can cost as much as $15,000 per finished minute. If the video includes special effects or computer-generated characters, it can be significantly more. The Avengers, for example, had a cost of $330 million. That is $2 million per minute. So Hollywood production studios are definitely going to remain highly specialized, but they are going to leverage advances in camera VFX and virtual production that can simulate an environment, like the picture that you see on the bottom. But burgeoning producers like Netflix, Amazon, and Hulu, along with producers who are more on the professional side of things, like professional videographers, news networks, and more, are really going to take advantage of the time and the cost savings that automation platforms can offer, thanks to breakthroughs in visual tech. Additionally, software-enabled programmable video is going to make video production as easy as making a slide deck. This is going to bring video production capabilities to long-tail producers, like hobbyists and kids who otherwise have no production experience. Animated video is one sector of video that's going to see a tremendous uptick over the next few years. But animated video right now requires expertise, as well as even more time and budget than content that's starring real people, as I talked about with the Adventures film, for example. Animations include cartoons, motion graphics, and VFX. They're going to be an increasingly essential part of content strategy that are going to be deployed across image, video, and live stream channels. A traditional animator typically creates 4 seconds of content per workday. Can you imagine if you could only produce 4 seconds of video? Well, motion capture is a tool that's often used by professional animators in film, television, and gaming to record a physical pattern of an individual's movements and make it digital for the purpose of animating them. You know, an example would be something like Steph Curry coming in to do a jump shot that's then programmed into NBA 2K. Now, advances in photogrammetry, deep learning, and more are enabling camera-based mocap. That means little to no suits, sensors, or hardware required. And for an example of this, you could look at like the facial capture on your iPhone's emojis. These advances in mocap are really going to make it easier, faster, and budget-friendly. It's going to become more widely accessible for animated content creation across the board. You'll hear a little bit more about this later today from Chen Zheng of Aquifer. More and more content is becoming gamified. Okay? Gaming's already a massive industry. It's going to hit 240 billion almost globally by 2027. That's going to expand and grow as more and more of the content introduces gamification. The reason why gamification is going to be introduced is because it encourages interactivity with that content. Gamification is applying typical elements of game playing like point scoring and competition in order to encourage engagement with that content. And GANs are going to be a critical component to helping to gamify and personalize the content. That will engage more players, expand interactions, and the community around content, which is why it's such an important feature. Games with non-game-like objectives are one of my favorites. It's going to help diversify storylines and enable gaming to appeal to wider audiences who aren't just interested in killing games or winning a race, for example. The growth in numbers, diversity, and hours spent playing online games is going to really drive a high demand for unique content. AI and cloud infrastructure capabilities are going to play a major role in aiding game developers to build tons of new content. And then gaming as a service, where you can buy a subscription to a whole suite of games, is going to become a ubiquitous business model for gaming. Game platforms are leading the growth of this immersive online interaction, and they are also setting the first foundations for the metaverse, which we'll talk to a little bit more later. As we have more gamified content, we're interacting with content so much more. We're going to interact with it as different digital identities, right? We all have digital identities to produce, consume, and interact with that content. In our physical lives, for example, we've got many aspects to our personalities, and we represent ourselves differently based on different circumstances. If we're in the boardroom versus the bar, if we're in groups versus sitting home alone on our sofa, if we're in front of our grandparents versus with our girlfriends, right? And so online, it's going to be exactly the same. The old school AOL screen names have now evolved into profile photos and emojis. They're going to continue to go so into avatars, gamer tags, and so much more. Over the next 5 years, we estimate that the average person will have at least 3 digital versions of themselves that are both photorealistic and fantastical in order to help us participate online. These digital identities, or avatars as some call them, they require visual tech. Some will enable public anonymity of the individual, others will become pseudonyms, and others will be directly tied to our physical identities. But a growing portion of them, a growing portion of the virtual beings that we interact with, are actually going to be powered by AI and not by a physical human. Micah by Magic Leap was a first generation example of this and who was ahead of her time. But these autonomous virtual beings are going to have personalities, feelings, problem-solving capabilities, and so much more. Some of them are going to be programmed to look, sound, and act and move just like an actual physical person. They're going to become our assistants. They're going to be our coworkers, our doctors, our dates, and so much more. When we talk about all of the content that's going to be produced out there, the creators who are continuously producing the volumes of content necessary, they're going to need a variety of tools in order to help them automate the repackaging of their content. It will help. There's a variety of different curation and publication platforms that are being developed right now that will enable content to be repackaged from just long form to short form, be repackaged from a video to a blog, or maybe vice versa. It'll be social posts and so much more. The systems will self-select content and format it based on the performance of past publications using automated analytics derived from computer vision, image recognition, sentiment analysis, machine learning, and more. They're also going to inform the next generation of content to be created. You'll hear a little bit more about that later. It will also enable us as consumers of content to filter through the content most effectively. We'll have autonomous curation bots. Hopefully there'll be an AI Abby bot out there that's powered by smart algorithms to help me sift through and present all of the personalized content that is directly attributable to my interests and aspirations. Eventually, we believe that we'll see personalized synthetic video content replacing a lot of the text-heavy newsletters, media, and emails that's directly curated for myself and my interests. With this plethora of new content, we also are going to require ways to authenticate it, both for the sake of creator rights management and also for the management of deep fakes, fake news, and more. By 2027, we think that most consumer phones are going to be able to authenticate content via applications at the edge. It's also deeply important in order to detect disturbing and dangerous content as well, as much in real time as possible. And it's increasingly hard to do given the vast quantities of the content that's published. AI and computer vision algorithms are absolutely necessary to automate this process by detecting hate speech, graphic pornography, and violent attacks, for example, because it's too difficult to do it manually in real time, and it's definitely not cost effective. Multimodal moderation that includes image recognition as well as voice, text recognition, and more are really going to be required. There's still likely to have to be humans in the loop for checks with contextual understanding, but computers are going to do the vast majority of it. And we'll hear more about that later from Clarify. As a whole, increased creation and virtual participation is the foundation of the metaverse. The metaverse has many different definitions, but the one that is most applicable is interactive virtual space. There's not just going to be one metaverse, but there's going to be many that we access all across the internet. All of those metaverses are going to be powered by visual tech. Visual tech itself is what extends us into the metaverse, right? We already are able to interact in digital spaces together all the time, and we do it via our screens. The gaming world is a great example where you navigate and you play, whether that's Call of Duty or Animal Crossing. And it's our screens that port us into the metaverse. Over time, more and more of the metaverse is going to become about 3D and 4D. And visual technology are going to enable people to create lifelike, multi-dimensional models of both real-world objects that they use their smartphones to capture, as well as creating fantastical objects and scenes on their computers. Over time, metaverse and metaverses are also going to include further immersion of the human senses, using things like computer neural interfaces, which allow people to sense and to communicate and to feel instead of just view. Our screens are the portal into the metaverse today, but hardware is going to have a place. We don't necessarily need a VR headset or AR glasses to experience it, but wearables and headsets are going to become as common as computer screens and phones. I just wondered the other day as our daughter tried on the Oculus for the first time, if this was going to be like the time when my dad brought home our very first shoebox-sized cell phone. As one expert told us, eventually we believe that we will gawk at how we used to carry around phones. But whether this is 5, 10, or 20 years from now, still to be determined. The thing that we do know is that the digital land grab for the metaverse has already begun. And brands and businesses need to start creating their metaverse strategies as an extension of their content strategy. Similar to the 2000s, where smart companies recognized the importance of social media, the 2020s will be when the first adopters start to build out their metaverse teams for the next era of the internet. These strategies, like the metaverse itself, will all be based on visual tech. Some of the metaverse will be about replacing or replicating the physical world and projecting it into the digital. But in our opinion, more of it is going to be about transcending the physical and the current state of things in order to develop whole new products and services. New virtual goods like gaming skins that use digital textiles that are not tied directly to the physics of textiles in the real world are really going to be the future, for example. Professions like digital fashion designer are also going to become the mainstream. There's so many examples of these. Not only products and services, but along with those, there's going to be expansive new experiences. Why should we play putt-putt on a green when you can do it through a pirate cave? Why experience a solar system in a book when you can witness it all around you? Why would you watch your favorite artist from the nosebleeds if you could see them towering above you? Metaverses and the events held within them aren't going to replicate or replace the physical ones, but they'll just be whole new experiences and dimensions of living for us. At the moment, game engines are the ones that have the rendering power and the compute required to power the metaverse and metaverses. But eventually, edge compute, connectivity, and decentralized compute are going to be a major piece of the puzzle, and they're going to play a major role in bringing real-time, ongoing, massive interactive virtual worlds to life. In sum, visual content, tools, and experiences hold massive opportunities.